want to talk about the Galaga Championships that happened last weekend, and there were two different ones. One was about the pro, and one was about the amateur. And I'll talk about the amateur real quick. Mike Thompson won the amateur. He was far away better than anyone else. Heads and tails just blew out the competition. He did so well that they were like, you know, we have an open spot in the pros, and if you can get a decent top 10 score, you qualify. So he did it, and he qualified for the pro competition as well. Unfortunately for him, though, in the quarterfinals, he ran into Armando, who was thought of as the one that was the favorite to win the tournament because he, like a couple months before, got 6 million points on one man. Just one man, which is insane. Completely insane that anyone can do that. Anyway, he faced Armando, and it basically in the quarterfinals, and he did pretty well. He got to 1.4 million. Armando wasn't playing his best game, and he lost a couple of men, and so he was down to 3 men, and so that's could be anyone's game because Galaga can destroy both men in a heartbeat, and then you're down to 1. So he came close, but he just couldn't make it. In fact, it probably was the best match of the quarterfinals. All the other matches ended rather quickly, like 300,000 point games. Not many went that far. All right, now I'd like to talk about the controversy of the tournament, which happened in the semifinals, and that was when Andrew Barrow went against Andrew Laidlaw. It was a decent match, and again, it was another match that went into the millions. It went at least $1 million, I mean. And they were both down to 3 men. And something happened where Andrew Laidlaw lost 2 of his men. And he was down to 1 man, and he walks away from the machine, turns his back, and Andrew Barrow, thinking that he was quitting on the game, intentionally destroys both men. Now he's down to 1 man. But then, as Andrew Laidlaw turned around, he sees that Andrew Barrow only has 1 man, and he decides to run back to the machine and start playing again. This shocks Andrew Barrow so much that he himself decided, okay, I gotta play on 1 man again. And so now they're down to 1 man, both competitors. Andrew Barrow's up by about 200,000 points. And that matters because later on, while they're playing, like the organizer of the event was like, wait a minute, this is kind of not fair that, you know, he walks away from the machine and the other player thought it was gone. The game was over, but then he runs back to the machine, and so the organizer said, you know, Andrew Barrow, you win the game. It's over. You've won it. And so what Andrew Barrow does is he destroys his last man. And apparently, I guess Andrew Laidlaw either didn't hear him or whatever, basically continues to play the game. And so now you have it on screen. Everyone's like freaking out because they're like, why the freak did Andrew Barrow just throw away his last man? People were like, what's going on? It's like there was like this most insane moment. And they hadn't realized that the organizer told Barrow, hey, you won. But Andrew Laidlaw continues to play. And he goes past a couple boards, but eventually he does die himself. And fortunately, the score that Andrew Laidlaw had was not higher than Andrew Barrow's anyway. And so that's it. Then came the 3rd place match. And Andrew Laidlaw goes against John. I think his last name was Klinkle. Anyway, basically Andrew Laidlaw loses 3 men rather quickly for the pro tournament, and at about 300,000 or so, he only has 2 men, and again, Andrew Laidlaw walks away from the machine. But this time, the other player is like, whatever, I'm going to continue to play. And then Andrew Laidlaw lets the other 2 men die and just walks out, just ticked off at himself that he didn't do so well at the tournament. So basically, Andrew Laidlaw said, he didn't realize that, and the other Andrew thought he had quit the game, and that's why he ran back to the machine. And I don't know about the excuse about why he kept on playing when Andrew Barrow gave up his last man. Maybe, again, he didn't hear the organizer. Whatever. But that would have been a huge, huge controversy. Big controversy if Laidlaw had actually taken that last man and gotten a higher score than Andrew Barrow. Fortunately, that didn't happen. Fortunately, there was no controversy. There was controversy, but fortunately, it didn't amount to anything. So it was much ado about nothing, fortunately. And so the finals was Armando versus Andrew Barrow. And this is the top two players. Andrew Barrow was the main record holder for 5-man. He had gone 6.2 million on 5-man for MAME. And Armando had that one amazing game where he goes 6 million on just 1 man, which is completely insane. He didn't actually submit that score. He actually killed off all 17 men when he got to 16 men because his hands were really hurting. So, and he didn't have a full video of the game anyway, so he couldn't do that. Also, I forgot to tell you, Andrew Laidlaw is the arcade world record holder for 5-man, which is 4.5 million. And so he still holds that record. All right, back to this thing. Both do really, really, really well. Andrew does exceptionally well on his first man. He takes that first man and he gets over 2 million points. In fact, he doesn't die until 2.4 million. And amazingly, Armando hangs right with him. And but he dies a couple of times, so he has 3 men. But even at 2.4 million, he still has 3 men. So at 2.4 million, both people have 3 men. So it's actually pretty close. But then a couple 100,000 points later, Mondo gets into some really, really big trouble and loses 2 men, and now he's down to 1 man. Okay? But then Andrew loses a couple men too. And so at the very, very end, it actually was 1 man against 1 man. And I think Andrew had a score that was 100,000 points higher. So it could have gone either way. Unfortunately, Armando couldn't pull it out and lost, and for him it was a crushing blow because the first place prize was $10,000 and second is $5,000. So that's like losing $5,000 right off the table right there. Boom. 5,000 is great, but when you have the opportunity to get 10,000, my goodness. And so he walked away from the machine completely crushed by it, and understandably so, while Andrew was very excited about what just happened, understandably so. So in the end, Andrew Barrow wins the tournament, and it was well worth the watch. And I hope that, anyone else was able to see it. It was a great tournament. Meow Wolf did a great job organizing it. I loved how they did player profiles of all the top players, and then I actually interviewed them too before the finals, and it was good. And they actually, the finals was very well done, and so I gotta give them thumbs up on that. So that's it for now. Wanted to give you an update and a recap of what happened with the Galaga Championships. You guys have a nice day. Bye!